Hey, what's up? All right, yeah. So, I mean, let's see here. So Atlas Shrugged. Shrugged. Yeah. So well, I mean, I finished reading the book called Atlas Shrugged last year, and a goal of mine has always been to accumulate a good amount of wealth. You know, and it's a book that's always been recommended to me through a lot of people who have been financially successful. So yeah, I went ahead and read it, and yeah, these are my thoughts on it. Um, I think overall it's a great read. I think it's a great novel. I think that you can learn a lot from this book. I think one of the really interesting little things I learned in this book is the fact that, or the importance of minds in the growth of an economy or, country, etc. I never knew that minds are so important. Um, yeah, mines were so important. I mean, obviously, we know that technology is important. That's another key uh, topic in this book is the importance of technology. Um, but yeah, I think uh, one of the main themes of the book is how we have a very small percentage of individuals at the very top of society who are, who produce a lot of, uh, who produce a lot, who basically carry society on their shoulders, and that's why the book is called Atlas Shrugged, because essentially the main theme of the book is the fact that these titans, these larger than life individuals, get to the point where they say, you know what, we're fed up of having to to basically pull or to carry the heavy load in society, and they decided that they would they would desert the lesser citizens, or um, the lesser citizens of society, and they would hide away in some utopian civil society where essentially uh, essentially you live by your own means, and you don't no one should have to no one should have to no one should have to sacrifice themselves for your wants and needs, etc. um yeah, so I mean, obviously, I think it's you know and yeah, so it's called Atlas Shrugged because essentially these rich individuals, or these large in life individuals, essentially are like Atlas, from the Greek mythology, and they kind of said it to themselves that they're like Atlas, in their modern society. And if Atlas really wanted to, I mean, he could just drop the world, and then that'd be everybody. So technically, he's the one that had the most power in his hands. And these are heroes of the book. These rich, ultra rich, larger than life individuals have all the power in their hand, on their shoulders, and they just decided to shrug. They decided to let it go. Let society crumble on itself if their way of life, their productivity, their way of living a productive life is so frowned upon, then they would just let the world collapse on itself. They would let society collapse on itself. Um, so yeah, that's the premise of the book. I do agree overall with the topic, the fact that yes, these, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, the Bill Gates of the world, these guys are, they produce a lot, and they produce a lot, and that allows it guys to have jobs, and they allows them to have jobs, and allows us to have an awesome society that's fully functioning. That's really working out for everyone. Um, so yeah, I do agree with the premise of the book. I think that when you're for me growing up, I never really had that much money, so I kind of learned to frown upon rich people. But if you think about it, I mean, like those that 1% or that whatever the people at the very top, they're producing a lot for society, and they're being compensated for it fairly. And I think it's in our best interest, people here at the bottom where I'm at, low class society, they shouldn't necessarily demonize those individuals, but if anything, they should try to strive to be more like them. And yeah, okay, so that's kind of like the kind of what I agree with. Now, I think this is my opinion at this point. So I guess at this, in my opinion, I think yes, from a very society level, capitalistic level, I think that you know the the individuals who oppose the heroes, these larger than life individuals, um, they inherently were evil because they wanted to live to be like these our heroes, but yet they weren't willing to put the work and the effort and the sacrifice to achieve the things they achieved. Okay, so with all that, I agree. Now here's where I disagree with Atlas Shrugged. Um, I think that when we talk about the love story of Atlas Shrugged with Dagny, I think that that's where the book, to me, it kind of loses me because I don't think that you know the. I think it's like this. It's like financially capitalist or capital from a capitalistic perspective, the book hits it right on the nail. But from a love perspective, I think the book doesn't really doesn't really doesn't really do a good job of uh of the under like it doesn't really do a good job of uh you know conveying the correct way I believe that you should love someone. And let me explain. First, what's his name? Dagny and what's his Francisco, they have their love, they're in love when they're young. And then um yeah, and then I mean, I guess that never works out because Francisco, he's a jerk, to be honest with you. And then she likes Henry Reardon, and that's more of like a love affair that's really not real love. And then she meets our the ultimate guy, and that's really what all it was, is just the ultimate guy. um what's his name? uh can't think of John Galt. And he's this like super attractive, super genius, super like all these like just ridiculous things. And that's who she ends up falling in love with. And she didn't really know the guy. She didn't really. So I mean, to me, it seems like I think they try to portray a woman as like a woman is gonna love like the best of the best, and that's kind of how the book explains like the best of the best is kind of like they deserve to be at the best. And let me see, let me try to gather my thoughts here. So she like so so essentially, um yeah, I guess that's the idea of that's like the ultimate driving love story, is like she's constantly meeting like kind of like going up and up until she like meets this guy, and this guy's like super amazing and blah blah. And I don't personally, I don't think that that's what real love should be like. I mean, I think if you love someone, you're not going to love them because they're because of who, I mean, um because of how, because of all the exterior motives of someone. It's you're going to love them for who they are. And also you're going to love them because you've known them for a substantial amount of time, or maybe not necessarily substantial, but I think that you don't just fall in love with someone at first sight. I mean, I think that's not a real something that, I mean, yeah, I don't think that's a really wise thing. I think when I was young, yeah, I thought that I fell in love with someone when I first met them, but it's really not wise. And also, if we look at the the writer herself, I kind of did some little bit of research on my end because I just kind of it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't make sense to me, the love aspect of the book. I thought that was kind of silly. Um, I mean, I can see why she liked the guy, but I just don't think that that's like the right way that two people should truly fall in love. Um, so, um, let's see here. So, let's see. The author of the book was Ayn Rand, and the book was written in 1957. And let me tell you where I thought that I kind of, got some more insight into this book because it turns out Ayn Rand was, she's very, what's the right word? It's called objectivism. And objectivism is, let's see here, let me provide a good description here. So here it says it's the concept of a man as a heroic being with his own happiness as moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity and reason as his only absolute. See, I agree with that. I agree with all that. See, I mean, I believe that. I mean, that's why I work as hard as I do, and that's why I want one day want to be financially independent and have all these have be live successfully. Um, but I think that it gets to a point where it's all about self motivation and or not self it's self interest and 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 it kind of ties back to John Galt. He said that he created a utopia that where no one should have to sacrifice for someone else's well being. But yet everyone in that entire that utopian society, they basically sacrifice all of their lives to make his goal and his uh his goal a reality, and that was to watch to have society collapse on itself when in reality that's not even a good that's not even a good thing. Like, why would you want society to to basically destroy itself? I mean, that's not something one should um try and even try to come to pass. I mean, yeah, I know it's wrong that it's basically two wrongs don't make a right, in my opinion. I guess that's my kind of opinion of the book. But ultimately, though, something funny I found with the writer. I believe I just want to make sure I'm correct here. She she was married, and she was married, and she was married, and she had an affair, I believe, with someone. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I wish I could provide a better description, but yeah, she was married at one point, and she had an affair in her marriage with someone else. I believe those two ended up um, Ayn Rand and the man that she had an affair with ended up being in a relationship, and then that man ended up leaving her for someone else, and she ended up, being, um, ended up, I think, I think she ended up, being single until the end of her life, and that's kind of why I say what I say is I mean, the thing is you can meet someone at first sight and be like and say to yourself, "Oh, I'm in love with that person," but in reality, you're just feeling infatuated. You're just infatuated. It's not genuine love. So I think that's what something that the book got wrong. I don't think it was even trying to get it right, but in my opinion, I just think that it kind of was silly to me. I don't think that it was right, and it's funny because it kind of happened to the author where she ended up, having an affair, and she ended up being single, or that person ended up leaving her for someone else. So, um, and then ultimately, Ayn Rand, she believed in like objectivism, where it's basically like hardcore capitalism, where if you don't necessarily, if you're not making, uh, if you're not able to produce and contribute to society, then you basically starve to death. And I think, in my opinion, that's a little radical. I think that's too radical, to be reasonable in the reality that we live in. And it's funny because in the end of her life, I think she was on government services. And that's really my opinion is like, yeah, I agree with a lot of her points in the book. I think that a lot of them are reasonable. But ultimately, though, I don't believe that a society could truly function if everyone just did what was in their best interest. Um, yeah, and that's my thoughts on it. And yeah, if you disagree, if you disagree, or you think I'm wrong somewhere, just leave in the comments. Um, yeah.